you guys decided not to participate in the assassination of King Gullop, and instead, sort of, not really. I mean, you kind of just avoided the situation and just left. Did what the king asked you to do, and go up to meet with Bavlorna, um, which actually was surprisingly easy to find her. Um, you initially tried to convince her that her sisters were trying to kill her, and she said, "Okay, well, if they're going to try and kill me, then I would like something that I can do to protect myself from them." And you guys really didn't want to do that, so William tried to stab her, and you ended up getting into a fight with her and a couple of her little Fey friends. Um, she escaped using what Shane, though not Callum, recognized as the plane shift spell. Um,
I've been playing a wizard very hard lately. I'm just like, oh, yep, that's a component.
yes. Um, and you talked to Clabberclaw, who advised you that it was likely that she would have fled to one of her sisters. Um, and also, and again, and I just made sure that they did not explain, and they don't. This module does not explain how you were supposed to get from hither to thither, where you are now. Um, so Clabberclaw, uh, we will say, guided you through the mists. However, he would not actually go with you entirely to thither because, I believe, as he had mentioned before, that Scabatha, who is um, the hag
Maiden.
ruling over this place, is the one who made him.
Yeah.
She made him, yeah. So he has no
Innately
desire.
drawn to the innately drawn to the location of his creator, he is able to lead us through the unyielding and mystical fogs.
There you go. I mean, it's crazy, and it's funny too because each one of these places, the carnival and hither and thither, they're all set up as separate chapters, as most of them are. But each of them say, like at the end, it's like, well, this is like from hither to thither, and whatever. And except for the first one, as far as that mirror that you guys use to get to the Feywild, they give you no explanation. They're just like, yeah, you'll have a guide. They'll just get you there. Oh, okay. So I guess we just make it up. So yeah, you and I moved you a little bit because we had moved you here, but this is where you guys will show up out of the mists. He would give you a little bit of a layout. He might even give you, we'll say he'll give you a bit of a hand drawn little map. He did make mention mostly to that Nib's Cave would be a place to go first, which is right below you. He would also, there are about four things. So he would show you on the map the Wayward Pool. Up to the north is Little Oak, and the place that you are already aware that Scabatha may be residing, Loomlurch.
Now, Clabberclaw, is there a particular reason that you think we should go to the cave first?
Well, you know, Nib is one of you, and he points to Signe. Can't get names. Um, Basically referring to a human. Um, and he knows thither better than anyone else, and he might be able to give you some details about what's happening.
I see. Has he been here? Well, he must have been here for some time, I suppose.
Um, Also, I said
How?
that wrong. Nib is a she.
Gotcha. How exactly do you know her, anyway?
Oh, everybody knows Nib. They call her Nib the Miser.
Oh,
Yeah, she usually just yells at kids and stuff who show up, and she seems kind of mean, but she knows a lot.
Hmm. And do you think that she will be able to help us in our endeavors?
Mm, more than anybody else.
Suppose that's fair.
I think we might as well go see her.
It's as good as lead as any.
Hey, any information's good information.
He will also make mention that when he first escaped, he got some help, and he mentions Little Oak on the map. And when he was talking about the children, there is a group of lost children, and Arvid would probably be somewhat familiar that lost children do end up in the Feywild from time to time. Um, and it also kind of goes back to the fairy tales of the Hansel and Gretel and parents taking their kids and like leaving them in the forest, that kind of thing. Wayward children get lost into the Feywild, but there is a group of kids in Little Oak that call themselves the Getaway Gang, which sounds like a 1980s children's cartoon.
Sounds like a gritty reboot of The Lost Boys.
There you go, the Getaway Gang.
I was going to say the Boxcar Kids.
Yes,
That too.
Oh my
that's
goodness,
them.
yes.
God, I loved those books.
Me too.
But yeah, the Getaway Gang assisted Clabberclaw in making his way through the forest, because that is one thing that you notice as you would exit out of the mist in and of itself. The description actually is, as you first arrive into Thither, is the mists part to reveal a primeval forest. A fragrant breeze wafts between the enormous trees, sending motes of pollen dancing into the air. Patches of sunlight kiss the forest floor, and the sweet melody of birdsong echoes all around. So slightly
This
more
ought,
pleasant than the swamp that you were just in.
this ought to make travel a bit easier, at least.
Hey Arvid,
Yes.
does this mean there's more slug? Or are we finally free?
Probably not that many. At least none of the large riding slugs would be here.
Probably be fine.
Okay, cool. Because while it tasted really good, it freaked me out on a psychological level. I wasn't happy with it.
Well, don't do that when you get back to the prime material realm.
No, really. I never could have figured that out.
I do believe you mentioned that, friend.
Yes, but it's always good to have a bit of a warning.
Oh, I also forgot to mention that you also we kind of like I guess it wouldn't have technically happened yet, or I guess it would depend on how long it probably took to get through the mist, which might have taken a little bit of time. But you guys did have visions in your dreams.
Yes, you told us of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which for some of you were not pleasant.
Do the lot of them look a bit more... Is it visible that they've had more dreams?
Oh, William Griswold, whatever you want to call him at this point. It looks like he did not sleep, and he is kind of pale and clammy looking. Like he could either be sick or anxious about something.
Callum looks mildly preoccupied with Ragna, but seems to be not saying anything for the time being.
Yeah, so Callum and Ragna had essentially the same vision, but they wouldn't know
Mhm.
that. They wouldn't know that they had the same visions. And Signa had one that would probably make her happy because she just felt like a badass,
Mm.
murdering people, and
We
her
wouldn't we wouldn't
full-size
know we had the same one, but we did recognize each other in those visions, yes?
I would say you obviously would have recognized Ragna. I mean, she would have looked older,
Mhm.
but mostly the same. I think we will. I don't think it was when I described it. I would specifically have mentioned it, but she couldn't see your face, but it would have
Yes,
been
that's right, you mentioned a mask.
yes, but it would have been a familiarity of recognizing who you were without actually having your name spoken, I guess. So she would have recognized it as you, even if because the way that these visions work is that like it's almost like you're there, right? So you're sort of like in that moment, even if you're not, even if you're sort of like seeing yourself from like the outside.
Gotcha.
Well, seems you all had some dreams again last night.
Yes, and it was so cool.
Yes, a bit odder than the others, I imagine.
Callum was there, and Aster was there, and she was magnificent. Oh, she threw out those throats like a beautiful beast. And I
Wait.
looked so cool. And I got to ask someone some questions. And there was like snow, and there was a cool wind whipping my cape. Oh, it was just so fulfilling.
Who did you say was there?
You.
I, as a player, don't remember that.
I am not sure. I purposely did not write down notes for the other dreamers.
Oh wait, no, you were with Ragna. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, so scratch that. But yeah, the wind was whipping up my cape, and I just looked like a badass.
Signe was just murdering a half a dozen NPCs. There was nobody you recognized.
It was
There
me
was
and
just-
Aster versus the world.
There was a guy who was on the ground trying to scramble away from you on his back and saying that he surrendered, and you said, "I'm not taking prisoners," basically. And he started running, and that was when you whistled, and Aster took off with her bloodied muzzle after him.
So when does Signe multi-class into Beastmaster? That's what I want to know.
I mean, honestly, like Beastmaster Barbarian is just cool as hell. I mean, they don't synergize perfectly, but still, the concept is awesome to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that could be a vision of the future.
Well, it had to be. Aster was all grown.
And also, you had your father's axe, which is cool, but also possibly concerning.
Well,
I suppose, yeah, it was a little weird to have Dad's axe, but hey, cool guy
is-
like me gets to have cool things, right?
Probably called Wyvern's Bane, probably the name of that axe. Because it would have been, so the handle of the axe would have been changed, but the head of the axe would have been your grandfather's. So that's why we call Wyvern's Bane, or Wyvern's Bane. I would say Wyvern, but I know some people say Wyvern.
Get them their wyverns.
well, the future can change. That's what these dreams are showing, a potential future.
Well, but I want to look like a badass.
Well, we can buy you a cloak at some stage.
I mean, but it was a lot of fun seeing Aster all grown up. And I liked taking on a dozen guys, just the two of us.
I'm sure you'll be doing that at some point. Do you know where you were? Perhaps we can push you towards that battle?
Somewhere snowy, mountainous. It was beautiful.
At the
The
very
blood
least, you have,
sprayed everywhere. It was like a weird drop paint art.
at the very least, you'll have to wait till Aster's grown, and until you've acquired your father's weapon, from the sounds of it.
Well, I
I'm saying
don't want to
you
inherit
could-
it too early.
Yeah, you can see again. You could see your face, and you in that vision, you probably didn't look a whole lot older, whereas like Ragna looks probably at least 10 or so years older than she is now. Whereas Signe, you didn't really. I mean, your face was covered in blood, so it's hard to tell anyway. But you didn't really you didn't look that much different. And obviously, you know, wolves and dogs and grow up pretty fast.
William, how did you fare?
He just kind of looks up at everyone. Is Clapper's claw still with us?
He probably wouldn't be. I'll say that you guys. He showed you to the. So you guys are still probably in the mist, but he just showed you just keep going straight
Okay.
and you'll get out.
William will kind of just look and just shake his head and just we need to finish it here soon. We need to get back to the prime plane.
More unsettling visions, then.
Um, I believe mine was either well, actually, Matt, I asked you, I believe, right? That her brother and the wife and the baby did not look much older, right?
Nope.
Okay, yeah. So William will it was either present or very very near in the future, but he looks to Signe and Ragni. He goes, your brother was still traveling, and uh, someone from my past approached him and his wife, and asked if they know who the man in the picture was, and it was me. And I think they may be going towards towards your home.
Even more reason to speed this thing up.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I'm gonna look to Arvid. I'm gonna say, do you have any way to get a message to someone on the other plane?
Un momento.
Sorry, was that addressed to me?
No,
Oh no, to Arvid.
Oh, okay.
And he was speaking Sylvan there, un momento.
yeah, un momento. At the moment, no. But if we can deal with this issue, I'd say relatively quick, but if we can deal with it properly, you might be surprised about. There might be a source of help that you weren't expecting.
Well, that brings up another point. I do agree with Clapperclaw. This Nib person seems like someone we should speak with, especially if they've been here this long and know that much. Maybe they'll have a way to get a message.
Makes sense.
I'd like to tell you more, but there are rules for fey creatures about telling the story of others.
Interesting.
So, if we do things right and help the Queen, I'm pretty sure there's something that can help you.
With
Fair enough.
With the things you've described in the past, at the very least.
Any help would be welcome, but I just it's more than just myself now. This person is going to a place where they know I live. They're going to the city. I have friends there. Ragna and Signe's family is there. It's not just me right now. So that's the hurry.
I know,
don't
just
mean
keep it in
to be-
mind.
I don't mean to be rude, but if we are in such a rush, then perhaps we can walk and talk.
Well, who feels most comfortable leading the way? Who's the best with directions?
Certainly don't mind. Though, Arvid, you've mentioned before that you are more familiar with this area. I'm not sure if you'd prefer to take that lead.
Well, I can certainly talk to the trees to see if they'll be willing to not interfere.
Your realm is confusing and concerning.
Well, no more than yours.
I don't generally have to worry about getting attacked by trees.
Depends on the trees.
Yeah, normally the flora behaves itself.
On the other hand, I'm told that our slugs taste much worse.
Well, you shouldn't be eating those to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, saute them in butter, right? Escargot.
Yeah, Arvid will just walk up to the first part of the tree line and in Sylvan just kindly ask for a helpful passage to Nib's cave. It's not going to do anything. It's just it's no harm in ever just putting it out there into the Thaverse.
You think it won't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, so the forest itself is, as mentioned, a primeval forest. It's very very old, but it's not difficult terrain per se. It's would it would be easy to get lost in, but um, you do have a general map written by a weird child with no fingers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you don't. It's not as if the trees part in your way, but you don't sense any sort of malevolence. And like I said, this place is. I wouldn't go so far as to necessarily call it cheerful, but it is certainly. Uh, it seems nicer, safer than the swamp that you just came from. That was covered in fog, and everything seemed somewhat sinister.
Well, would you like me to lead the way, or does someone else want to try?
I would say probably either you or Callum would probably be best. He did a good job getting us through the swamp.
I'm happy with whichever arrangements you would prefer.
I'm always happy to cut a path.
Oh, I don't think that would be a good idea here.
Yes, the trees won't exactly appreciate that.
Guys are always taking away my fun. What's a bored warrior supposed to do?
You did just try to fight a hag.
And she got away! I did a bad job, which means I need to practice.
That is a fair point, I suppose.
Well,
There are
let's do what
certain.
we can to catch up.
Yes. Well, if no one will say that they're taking the lead, Callum's just going to start going. So he'll take the lead.
You got anyone who's attempting to follow the map can just do like a nature check to see if you can make your way through without getting lost.
Survival?
Yeah, that too.
Oh,
Survival and nature kind of go hand in hand as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, I'll throw one out there as well.
All big rolls tonight. Well,
Mhm.
William did good.
So-
I was saying,
I don't know if you guys are using. Oh, okay. Is there anybody else using the dark mode that they added?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I think it looks pretty cool, although it is going to take a little bit of time to get used to some of these weird colors that they use. I wish you could change. Like, I'm not a big fan of the purple that they use.
Yeah.
But yeah, those rolls just kind of struck me there because that red should be brighter now that they have the black background, I think. But yeah, those are all decent rolls. So
nah, man, gotta keep it edgy.
And as we travel, there would be a Ragna. I feel I should share with you that I believe you were in the dream I had previous night.
Actually, you were in mine as well, I think. I mean, I didn't see your face, but I somehow knew it was you.
I was wearing a mask
Yes.
in mine as well. I believe it was you, your sister, I believe was there.
Yes, Rhea. Well, older Rhea.
I thought she looked familiar. Apologies, I've only, well, even seen your sister. I hesitate to say met, but only briefly. Do you have any idea? Were they in mine? We were facing some great force together with your sister. There was
Mhm.
some sort of small butterfly, some such creature near myself. You
I
looked.
saw that as well.
Sounds as if they were very similar, if not the same. Do you have any idea on where that location might have been? In yours, at least.
Would Ragnar recognize anything about the place?
Do a general intelligence check.
Okie
It might be
dokie.
because I'm thinking just like of your training, but it's not really religion.
Intelligent.
That's pretty good. I would say you, based on the training that you received at the, I don't know, Temple of Arathis, I guess. Temple, I wasn't church, but Temple of Arathis, we'll say. Um, you are fairly certain it was the Shadowfell.
Yeah, she will let Callum know that and be like, don't know why I would go to the Shadowfell, but seems like it's a place we may go in the future.
Would the Shadowfell have come up in any of Callum's independent studies?
Yes.
Interesting. Never seen the Shadowfell myself, but I've heard of it. Very, very interesting.
Would the reason we went there be because of Tara the player forgot her notes? The god he wants to kill. Something like that.
Nerul or Nerul, however you want to say it.
Possibly.
I would say in your independent study, there is conflict amongst the gods. Some of the lesser gods fighting with Nerul being pushed out of his domain and attempting to overthrow the Shadowfell.
If I had to hazard a guess, I would say so. This also was, well, no offense, but something of my assumption as well, since it seemed that we were readily joining into combat, and at least a current version of me cannot imagine another reason to do so. So,
You also had a pretty butterfly.
yes, the butterfly had occurred in previous ones as well. I didn't know if it was me or someone else in those, but the butterfly was there. Things grow curiouser and curiouser. Well, I suppose either way, we'll find out with due time. No use worrying over it now.
Seems like we have a long while to wait yet.
Perhaps.
Well, you've both managed to forget quite an important detail.
Which
What is-
is?
You mentioned a third person, didn't you?
Rhea.
And if it's a shared vision, means there's a decent likelihood of that being a future path.
And Ragnar will kind of look at Signa excitedly and says, "Oh, then we're likely to succeed."
Of course. Did you doubt us?
No. No.
That sounds like you did. Come on, you can't lie to me.
Not to mention that, well, as we're all traveling together now, if it seems that at some point in the future, you two will break off to go on this journey. So,
Perhaps. The snippet seemed quite brief. It's entirely possible that you were simply elsewhere.
Not on screen.
I would say that. I would say you all were there. I don't think there'd be a reason for us to part.
Generally, these visions or futures, presents, pasts focus on the dreamer. So, in each of your own dreams or visions, it primarily focused on you or something related to you, not everyone else.
I didn't mention this before, but I'll say it now that in that shared vision, um, it Rail looked similar to the previous vision that you had, Ragna. But I would say that like even though you seem to be working with her to do whatever it was that you guys were doing, she was also terrifying. I had mentioned before that her visage is slightly different. At first, in that first vision, you didn't recognize her immediately, and that her face is very gaunt. She's very very pale. She seems very very tall. Um, probably over 6 feet tall, and she's radiating this red magical energy. Um, and that might be a little unnerving in that that are we the baddies? Because like she seems terrifying and not the pleasant 17-year-old little sister that you are familiar with at all.
Yep. Ragna is gonna try to just be optimistic and think that her cursed sleep that she's under impacted her in some way.
Yeah, William was gonna kind of if you were in the Shadowfell, is there anything significant about that place? He kind of looks down like a little bit ashamed. He goes, ever since I went back to the prime material plane from where I was taken, I have done my best to not research anything along the lines of different planes, especially the not so pleasant ones. Is there anything there that is significant to either of you?
Oh yeah, what's a Shadowfell?
Well, Shadowfell is kind of like the Feywild, just completely the opposite.
So, actually nice?
Oh no.
Very
So
doom
everything
and
here,
gloom.
but everything in the Feywild seems to be somewhat trickery and playfulness and such. So it's just somewhere, and he just stops and looks confused.
Like, it's that opposite is where if you see a mountain in the Feywild, you'll see like a giant crevasse in the Shadowfell.
Oh, so the terrain is flipped around.
It's pretty much the complete opposite.
Callum,
It is
It's all
also. It is also. Oh,
Callum, do a history check with advantage.
sure.
it's
History
also
check
very muted, very gray.
with advantage. History. There we
So
are.
there's like a lack of sun?
That's great. That's ridiculous.
Nothing. It is
Um,
also, as
so
far as I know. Do you want to say something? You want me to stop?
Well, yeah. I was going to say what you guys know about the Shadowfell, and I'm not going to give you everything because you rolled terribly. But, so both Callum and Ragna, and a little bit of and for Arvid as well. So, as the description relates to Exandria and not necessarily other D&D lore, um, although I think it's pretty similar. So the Shadowfell is a plane of negative energy, and elements of it are used to funnel the transition of souls from life to death and back. And it, as Arvid mentioned, it exists as a mirror plane of Exandria, like the Feywild is. It's, elements of it resemble Exandria, but it's twisted and shifted. Um, Also, it's believed that the Shadowfell is the origin of vampires. Um, you would have knowledge of Shar, in particular, Ragna. Shar is one of the lesser deities that resides in the Shadowfell and is also worshipped by vampires.
Yeah, I was just going for the real basic explanation.
Yep. But you can
Is
see that the interest that uh, Narul might have in such a place.
As far as I know, as far as I need to know, is that it is a plane of particular intrigue and possibly even a target for the King of All Gloom. Trip there would not be outside of my expectations.
Who's the king of Old Gloom?
Yeah.
Nero, hater of
You gotta
light,
stop talking in circles.
bringer of darkness, reaper of flesh.
Some sort of god.
The god of death.
Hey, something I recognize. Callum, why can't you just put things simply like Arvid? It makes so much more sense when you just plain speak.
Apologies, I thought most polite company doesn't particularly like to speak his name. I was trying to be a bit mindful.
Since when have we been polite?
Many feel it brings bad luck.
Bring it, world!
Let's not go that far.
I think Callum, based on his sort of interests and that, he probably himself would enjoy
Oh, yeah,
speaking his name.
that was the original plan. And then
Yeah.
every time he has said it, not a player or NPC has batted an eye. And so I.
Yeah, I mean, because that for everybody else, it's listed in there, but I didn't necessarily expect everyone to read it, especially if it wasn't of interest to your character. But
Yeah.
it's mentioned that any form of appeasement will merely draw his attention, something that is at all costs to be avoided. And Nerul seems, in fact, to draw power from the very avoidance of his name. So the idea being that people are afraid. It's speak the devil and he will appear. So they're all afraid to say his name, but the fact that everyone's afraid to say his name gives him strength.
He's like the opposite of Voldemort.
Yeah, exactly. So Callum would be like saying his name constantly because
Yeah.
he's like, screw you, buddy. I'm not afraid. I'm going to say your name so that you don't get power. So yeah, there's interesting things going on in these visions that you will probably have to investigate further or wait for more crazy things to appear. Who knows?
And the last thing as we're walking that William's gonna say, and he's gonna say, Ragnar Signet, have you, your sister is in school for arcane now, correct? Or before
Yes.
she got sick.
Yes.
Did she excel at any particular type of magic?
She did not. She was a straight A student across the board.
And then Ragnar will just say, she was a prodigy at everything.
I mean, I've not been around any extremely powerful arcane users, but I've come to know, such as what divine magic looks like from you, or the nature magic from Arvid. I've never seen anything with the aura you've described.
I would say for
That
all
does
of
sound
you,
cool.
Dresden is probably, well, not probably, Dresden is by far the most powerful magic user any of you have ever come across. He is an archmage and the headmaster of the most prestigious magic college school in Exandria during this time. So he is very, very powerful. But even he probably wouldn't radiate the sort of power that she was. Also, he's not terrifying, so.
Man, I'm so jealous of you lot to a degree.
Why?
I don't get those dreams.
I would gladly trade positions with you.
Is there
Hey.
anything that you wanted to see?
You should come to my dreams because mine are really cool. I'll share.
I mean,
Inviting you over after school. Come over to my house after school. Watch my dream.
I just got a new Nintendo, guys.
Well, there's nothing in particular. It's just these things happen to like people from the
Normal
prime.
fleshlings.
Pretty much, people from the actual Feywild don't have these dreams.
To be fair, I'm not sure they. Well, the information has been fuzzy at best, so I'm not sure much of value is truly lost.
Well, and my speciality of magic is dream magic, so
Yeah, hey, so you spend half the night just hanging around, right? Keeping watch or whatever it is you do.
pretty much yes.
And you specialize in dream stuff, am I not wrong?
Yes.
So why don't you just like hold my hand while I'm sleeping and spy?
Doesn't quite work like that.
From what you did to me, it seems as you have more control over not so much the specific dream itself, but the type of dream that it is, or just having them in general.
I can shape how the dream can go. Not to perfection, but generally in a direction that's either calming and helpful to others, or
And as soon as you're saying this, William kind of like jumps a little bit. He goes, "Can you make it the dream that I just described? The one where I was not in it. Would you possibly be able to make it so that I am there, so I can perhaps gather more information?"
I mean, I can certainly try next time you go to sleep. I'll try to guide your dream for you to be in it.
That would be amazing if I could just get. And he kind of just starts like talking very very quickly, but like slowly getting lower and lower, and like you could just tell he's thinking.
Hey, Will, you know that dream journals were a popular fad, right?
He's no longer paying attention to people.
Whatever.
He just like continued walking.
Oh, wait, Will!
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever wear that funny helmet?
Helmet didn't. I thought you put it on
I mean, yeah, but I gave it to you, remember?
for the.
I guess you haven't,
thoughts.
yeah!
Well, we went to sleep afterwards. I figure next time we take a bit of a rest, I'll get familiar with it and see if I can understand it.
Do it.
The helm of
I think
Tor.
it'll help. Not us, just you specifically.
Right. Yeah. That'll be as soon as we get perhaps to the cave. I can give it a look.
Yeah.
Is it an
Hmm.
hour? I can't remember. Is it a 2 minute, an hour?
Yeah, it's a short rest.
I thought it depended on the item. I thought it took a long rest, mostly.
Well, 2 minutes a short rest.
Oh, well, shows what I know.
Well, I didn't remember either. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
For whatever reason, a lot of the magical items that I end up using don't have attunement for some reason. But yeah.
I'll be honest, I still remember like Pathfinder rules and getting confused with like current rules all the time.
It happens. So you guys have definitely had enough time to get near the cave while you were having all these discussions, assuming that you were walking whilst doing so. And as you are approaching, you can see the cave in the distance, and it's pretty obvious. Obviously, you can see that there is sort of looks like a bit of a cozy sort of torchlight that's radiating from the cave, in sort of a wooded hillside, basically. And about 20 feet from the cave, there is a tree with a weathered sheet of parchment nailed to the trunk.
Who
Right
was
now we'll
leading the
go
way?
over.
It was who leading? It was Callum, right?
Yep.
All right.
So we'll have you guys.
I just didn't know who was in front.
Move our little puppy dog.
So in front of the cave, there's a tree with a piece of parchment nailed to it.
Weather
Gotcha.
sheet of parchment nailed to the trunk, about 20 feet in front of the cave. You can't see anybody in the cave. It looks a bit deeper, so it's not like, it's not shallow where you can just see light emerging from the cave itself, but you can't actually see
Yeah.
into it.
I mean, if that's clearly visible, Kyle would just go over to it, see if there's anything like on the paper or what.
As we're
Yeah.
approaching, William's going to kind of remember what our friend said. Not the nicest of people. Perhaps it's best to be a bit quiet.
I mean, I guess not necessarily to say that she's mean. It's more like you just think of the old lady yelling at
Grumpy.
Oh, get off my lawn.
Yeah, just like
Okay.
she's
All right. So it's not like scary. It's more like okay, I gotcha.
just sort of that type of just
Alright, then
just just a grumpy old person.
Gotcha.
So if you and I believe Ragnar was also going over to the tree there.
Yep.
So one of you, doesn't matter who, roll a d8.
Go ahead.
Can do.
Right. So this piece of parchment is a wanted poster, and at the top of it, it's faded but still legible. Says "Wanted, Will of the Feywild," and you can see that it is. There's a ink drawing on the parchment, and it in again a sort of faded ink, and it appears to be an image of a young boy, Will of the Feywild, and it says on it, "Deliver this rascal alive and unharmed. As payment, I offer you the power to bring the dead back to life." And it is noted that it is from Granny Nightshade. It is from Skabatha. She has placed this bounty, I suppose you could call it, on Will of the Feywild. So I'll also just put this in here for reference.
Interesting. That may be a complication.
Yeah, why's that? Do you know him?
No. But perhaps this Skabatha has the ability that we came here to seek initially. In any case.
We came here to seek bringing people back to life.
I mean, technically,
But
if you
your
really
sister is
think
not
about
dead.
it. Well, I mean, she's technically living, but I wouldn't really call that a life, would you?
I'd call it asleep.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider
She's
this
had
to be.
dreams.
Also, real quick, I'm sorry. Callum and Ragnar, what languages do you speak?
I think Elven, Sylvan, and Common. No, Elven, Dwarven, and Common.
Right now we'll speak Common, Celestial, and Dwarven.
Ragnar couldn't read it.
Okay.
Callum, it's written in Elvish.
So it's a good thing that you
Did you
rolled
roll?
the d8.
But again, as we've mentioned before, you would have recognized, oh, that's Elvish, I can't read it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's safe to assume that the boy in the picture is one of the children that Clapperclaw told us of. The gang, getaway gang.
Seems
Yeah, I
a safe
think so.
assumption.
William kind of looks in. I would normally say that an enemy of an enemy is our friend, but I don't believe I want to put children at risk and ask them to be our allies in this endeavor.
I might at least know some way to get in easily or weaknesses of hers. It seems like at least this will of the Feywild has angered her in some way.
I'm less convinced. Alive and unharmed could mean a number of things in terms of their relationship.
So I'm assuming all of you are over there now, right? Are you all
Yeah.
talking about this yet? Um, Arvid, you would know, um, if you choose to do anything with this, you would want to take that poster with you. The idea being that this would be, it's not like it's not like a contract with the devil type of thing, but like if you wanted to collect a reward, so if you found this will and you wanted to do something to get this offer of power, you would be required to give Granny Nightshade the actual piece of paper.
Could I look at that poster for a second?
Of
Of
course.
course.
It's a
What's
Fey
it actually
pact.
say?
Let's see. Deliver this rascal alive and unharmed. As payment, I offer you the power to bring the dead back to life.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Well, to claim it, you'd probably need this to hand in. And as he says that, he's just gonna turn his hands into claws and melt it.
What you doing that for?
Seems like he's ensured the boy's safety.
I doubt there is only one poster.
No, but the less the better.
Agreed.
All right. So the
Um,
poster goes up in flames.
Down in a puddle of acid, but yeah.
Wow.
Seems a bit rash. But you know this place better than I.
Well,
Arvid,
if,
go ahead.
if there's a hag offering a chance to bring back someone from the dead, do you think something like that's going to be exactly as she's promising?
Definitely
No.
not.
Suppose that's fair.
So the less chance she has of tricking people, the better. Plus, I doubt the young boy's probably done enough to deserve whatever she would do.
Well, I was just thinking that'd be a convenient excuse to see if these two sisters paired up or if they, the other two did. Either way.
Well, perhaps, and William's gonna kind of. Can I peer over at the cave and see if I notice any sort of movement or anything?
Yeah, you can do a perception check.
Yeah, not great.
Yep. I mean, you can see firelight,
Okay.
and it looks warm in there, and it's not. I would say it's not like it's not, you know, cold necessarily out in the forest, but it's you'd probably need a light jacket type of weather. You know, it's
Okay.
the fire looks somewhat inviting at this point.
So yeah, he'll just say, I would assume uh, the person in the cave might have a bit of more information on the child as well. They are human, but Arvin, are there many humans in the Feywild that spend extended time here?
Time's a relative thing.
Well, I'm more concerned with what would be more friendly to approach, a fellow human or a fellow Fey person from the Fey.
Maybe just stand at the entrance of the cave and introduce yourselves?
Right. And William kind of takes a step backwards and says, "Well, Ragna, you are the best at talking." And he kind of looks like he wants to go hide somewhere.
Oh, yep, of course I can try.
Just
And
remember to mention our little friend.
yes. And she will head over to Dib's cave and kind of peek her head in and say, hello, I wish to speak to Nib, please.
Yeah, and as you get to the outside of the cave, you actually can see the off in the distance, because as you get closer, you realize that the fire is not quite as large as it looked from the distance. What is making that warm glow, that you can see that there is this old woman who is sitting at a spinning wheel. She's appears to have like a blindfold on, and she's surrounded by piles of gold. And this is what is reflecting that light and making that sort of warm glow from a distance. The fire itself is actually not that big, and so that's what you see when you make that make your introduction, and you can see that you get her attention, um, and she says, "Yes, yes, please come in."
Thank you. And she will step inside and move closer to her.
Yeah, so
Griswold is going to stay outside, hidden, trying to keep watch.
Yeah, I'll totally go in.
In that case, Callum will stay with William to make sure that he is safe-ish.
Well, he's staying like literally right outside the cave, just anywhere you can hide. It's not like he's far away.
And
Okay.
he's totally disappeared with that stealth roll.
Well, she's also blind and has has a blindfold. But you can see that she, even though she's sitting down, you can see that she appears to be very tall, like rake thin, quite old, dressed in threadbare finery, and has kind of like a house coat on. But you can see that it looks like that not necessarily unlike the frogs that you met, that she is wearing clothes that look like they used to be very, very nice, but uh, have, are very, very old. And she seems kind of jittery, kind of jumpy.
We would like to ask a few questions if you wouldn't mind answering. We could provide a trade for your information.
Oh well, no. As part of my penance, I have to offer you all gifts. I will make them for you.
Penance?
But I could also answer questions.
Regna will kind of glance at Arvid as that, like, this is very unexpected to her.
type of penance are you having to
And you
do?
can see that she kind of slinks down a little bit and said, "Well, I've led a very cruel and heartless existence, and I've earned riches by exploiting my tenants' misery. I when I lived in Exandria, I bought up condemned property, and I rented it out for exorbitant fees, and then she kind of swallows hard. You can see that she's not kind of like not on the verge of tears, but not very happy to be discussing her previous life, and says that Granny Nightshade is helping me to make amends. I told her that I wanted to put my bad deeds behind me and my ill-gotten gains to good use, and she cursed me to dwell forever in this cave, spinning my gold into useful items for anyone who comes my way.
Could I? Does she seem truthful with that?
Insight check.
Due to incisive sense, I'll do that with advantage.
27. Yeah, she seems 100% honest about this.
Well, I mean, it's good that you're repentant, but I mean, that's not the crappiest thing ever. Doesn't necessarily make you a terrible human.
Just well, it's the best that I can do.
It's very honorable that you're taking self accountability this far.
Well, how many of there are you?
Oh, there are
Or
6 of
five,
us.
6, and a dog. And she
So
pops
nice.
around, and it's like, Aster, and just lets Aster poke her head out of the bag.
And she says, "Well, before I start, you can ask me questions while I work. But before I start, is there anything that any of you would want specifically?" So, are there any items that you would be interested in that she could possibly make for you? And she can make magical items.
Well, let me ask you first, what are your limitations?
Well, I don't really know how to specifically answer that question, but I will tell you outside of the of her. You have two options basically. You can request something specifically from her, um, and she will honor that request, provided that the desired item is non-magical and worth no more than 1,000 gold, or a magical item of common or uncommon rarity. And if you would prefer, you can also roll a d8, and she will just make you something. Decisions. Also, I'm gonna, if somebody wants, because we can't really decide what Ryan would want. If somebody wants to just roll a d8.
I'll roll a d8 for him. D8. D8. 6.
All right. So I will make note of what he gets.
You said uncommon or less?
Magic item of common or uncommon rarity.
Okay.
That should probably help.
Well, actually, this works well, and I would just, because I don't think it specifically matters who's holding it, and I'm pretty sure you don't. Anybody, I don't think you guys have it. She makes Johann a bag of holding.
Huzzah!
I mean that's actually, I mean, that is one of the things on the D8 table that is provided. So he will have that, and again, I don't necessarily think it matters which of you is specifically holding it, but we'll say he has it for now.
I mean, I can tell you right now, while other people look for their choices, given the weirdness of the Feywild and not really knowing this person's limits, Callum would say, I mean, certainly there are very specific things we seek, but unless you have some means of helping to ward off Neryl's influence, then whatever is simplest for you. And so I'm assuming he would roll a d8.
If you have no specific request, that is what she would do. And also, when she's doing this, you notice that she sort of takes up a pair of knitting needles. This is kind of like, makes me think of like Rumpelstiltskin, actually. But what you can see that she's doing is it's magical. This the spinning wheel. So the gold that is around her that she has acquired through her, previous life and being a terrible person is being converted on the spinning wheel into golden thread, which she then knits into these items.
Hmm.
Okay, so Callum, this is what she makes for you.
Hmm.
Not super useful until it is super useful.
Yep. Colin will take it for the moment. And I'm assuming that she explains to him what it is.
Yeah. So she would tell you, you don't have to identify it or anything like that.
Colin would take it with I appreciate this. Give a meaningful look to William, and then put it on for the moment.
And I would say this is not a requirement, but Arvid, you would at the very least know if she is doing this, you personally would likely feel obliged to honor the rule of reciprocity in that offering her something in return.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I'll probably offer something in return. I'm just currently looking through common and uncommon.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and he did mention that to us, and Callum is smarter than Jane is, and so would have remembered that.
I only bring it up because I'm not trying to do a gotcha on it. Like, she actually is, and she might even mention that she's not specifically asking for anything in return. She is as he rolled his 20. She's being 100% honest. She's doing this because she's trying to atone for her past. So she's not interested in this. She's not doing this for a trade.
All right, Matt. Just so I'm not completely cheating, because I don't know if William would even know something like this exists. So I'm gonna roll an intelligence check. I want to know if a weapon of warning would be something he would have heard of, because not being able to be snuck up on and surprised would be a great interest to him.
Weapon of warning, so good. Easily one of my favorites.
I mean, and I would
So
say,
probably not.
well, I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily think that it would be something that you would be like, I know this weapon exists and I want that. You could simply just say, I want something
that. Okay.
I want something that would keep me from being detected or whatever. Like, you can just describe what it is that you want. You don't have to say, I would like a bag of holding. Like, because I kind of.
Well, I mean, actually, does anyone even tell William? Because he's still outside.
Yeah, we probably would have let you know.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
Will.
she asked how many of you there were. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Hey, come
So, yeah,
on in. This lady's cool.
He'll come in, and once you give him the information, he'll just kind of immediately just burst out with, do you know of any sort of items that can make it so that I can't be snuck up on or attacked without any bit of warning? Just a bit of an alarm system.
I can do that, and she will make that item for you.
Okay. Now I just gotta look it up. Take care of all the.
And also, what is everybody's passive perception?
16.
I think also a 16.
10.
11.
I think Johan probably has a high one, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. He's not
Johan,
here.
I think, also has a 16. I think there are 3 of us with a 16.
Yeah, he has a 16. So those of you that have 16s, and none of the rest of you, Ragnar was close. But
Ragnar was 10.
yeah, and you needed an 11 for this, actually. So anyone with a passive perception of 11 or higher glimpse apparitions lurking behind Nib. And they take sort of various forms. There's like a little child peering over Nib's shoulder while she's working. There's like a sort of a gaunt-looking coachman that's sort of lurking in the shadows in the back of the cave. You can see that and they're sort of fading in and out. And you can see there's a woman who's like dabbing tears with a handkerchief. And there's a very like almost looks like a starving woman who's got an eye patch on. And as the it's very fast, sort of like they're flickering in and out of existence, and like when one apparition appears, another one vanishes.
Hey, shoo, leave her alone.
Can you see them, Signe?
No.
Oh,
No,
well,
what is your
I thought
passive
you said
perception?
11 or higher. Sorry.
Yeah. No, if you're higher than 11, you see him. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Ragnar will just be oblivious and will be all like, I wouldn't mind an item that helps my defense.
You could roll a 5 then, and she will make you same thing. You can have this if you would like.
Ooh, that's snazzy.
Ooh, indeed. That's a nice one.
Ooh.
Screw it, I'm just gonna roll. What was it, a D8?
D8, yeah. And you can also trade things around too if somebody
No,
rolls.
sorry, first one.
All right. You got an item that is really good for. Actually, let me do it this way. Roll. No, you don't have to roll again. Let me pull this up because this is set weird. Elemental. I don't even know what that is. Okay. So I don't know how useful this is going to be to you, but you get Boots of Elvenkind. I don't know how stealthy you are, but you now have advantage on those stealth rolls.
I mean, I'm proficient and I have a 5 in it.
Not bad.
Good.
And your steps make no sound.
Sweet.
You know what? I'm gonna just do it too. And I'm gonna take back my thing. I'm just gonna roll the D8 and see how it goes, instead of hand picking one.
Cave to peer pressure.
Mhm.
It just seems so much more fun than picking it out. I don't know, like just anything I want.
Well, I think you'll probably be pretty pleased with it.
Yes, I was. The only other one I was thinking about was the boots or the winged boots, but I was like, nah, I don't want to fly, especially like this early. All right. So,
I'll help with some lock picking.
all right.
I'm a little sad that they didn't include. There's no picture of it, but what do the gloves of thievery look like?
So I'm just gonna put a +5 on my thieves tools then, and try to roll it real quick. Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
Nice. Signet, what do you want?
Well, ma'am, I'm a simple woman. I'm a frontline warrior, and if you can feasibly, I'd either like something to survive a little bit better out on the field, or if you could do something to improve my axe, I would be greatly appreciative.
Right. So let's see.
What type of weapons does Signe prefer? Like obviously two-handed, but is there like a specific type?
No, just if it hits good.
Hammers, axes.
There's
great
moon
axes.
touch swords for great sword. I don't know what this is. A hue for a battle axe.
What the hell's a hue?
Hue, I think, is a specific battle axe. It's
Yeah.
from
It's from Fandelver.
Fandelver, and it's does like extra damage to plant monsters.
Well, you could do this.
I was gonna say Sword of Vengeance, but I don't
Actually,
think
I
we
take
need.
that back. You can't have that. It's a rare item. Never mind. I apologize.
We don't need Signe with a axe that is talking to her.
What do you
It's funny
mean?
because it's the talking sword Hazaron. Hazaron, for those of you that are unfamiliar, who haven't seen the sword before, Hazaron shows up in, I think, multiple of the older ones that were adapted. So the Tales of the Yawning Portal, in different ones it shows up. It also is in this one as well. So spoiler alert, it's possible that some of you could find Hazaron. Hazaron is a talking, terrifying sword. And it's just so dumb that they put it in multiple modules. It's like, really? You couldn't come up with something new? You're going to use that sword again?
Yep.
It's a neutral evil sword. I think Hazaron actually may even be at least the inspiration for the sword that Grog gets.
I mean,
Talks to him and tries to.
you could always get a Hellfire weapon.
So there are things like if you wanted to like there's the Brooch of Shielding, which is a brooch, I guess, that you can it gives you resistance to force damage and you have immunity to damage from magic missiles, which is very specific.
Ma'am, the way your brow is furrowing, I get the feeling what I've requested is unfeasible. So, how about just whatever's easiest for you? I have faith in your talents.
Well, actually, probably the best thing that let me see if nope. I see. I keep finding things that are rare. Um, Also, is it William that has the goggles of night or whatever they were, the
The
monocle,
monocle.
whatever, yeah, the monocle or whatever the hell it was.
I believe he gave it to Ragna.
Ragnar doesn't
No,
need
I
it,
don't
right?
think so because Ragnar doesn't need it.
Oh, yeah, no, fair enough.
I think
Then
it's
one of
only.
us.
I think William and Signa are the only ones that have it, or that don't have dark vision.
William probably has it since he's a sneaky boy.
Yeah, I remember saying to Signe, depending on the situation, because it doesn't require attunement, I could just give it to her. So if it's like not sneakiness and it's more like we need someone to see to get in the way, we'll give it to her.
Well, here you go. I think this will work. This is uncommon. This will potentially keep you safe on the battlefield. So she will make this for you, Signet.
Mm.
Oh my god, it's so cute.
+1 to ability checks and saving throws. I'm surprised that's actually uncommon.
That was the item that I had that in one of our previous games.
All right, I got something for you. Okay, ready? So this is gonna sound really weird, but you have to inhale this one with your mouth, not your nose. Sort of. And I'm gonna give her the wisp of sweet candy mist.
All right. Does that do anything other than just smell really nice?
No.
well, that's lovely, dear. Thank you.
Oh, yes. Suppose this realm's requires us to make those exchanges as well. So, of course. Uh, Callum is going to give her something of relatively equal value, which I think the closest thing he has to that is his handy spice pouch.
All right. You can remove that from your character sheet. And she will make mention. Is it not that I don't trust any of you, but just make sure not to take any of this gold, or you'll be cursed like me.
What?
You mean
No.
those specters that are flitting about?
Vectors?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
you see them right there, and Callum will try to point them out to Ragnar.
They're
Um,
Maybe
gonna.
your god is being nice and trying to keep these creeps out of your sight.
I mean, looking at it now that I know where to focus, I think I see something.
and Nib says that, oh, don't worry about those. They're haunted by my own words. As long as my ill-gotten gains were put to good use, my bad deeds would remain behind me, and you're beholding the restless apparitions of those that I hurt, and lurking behind my back and tormenting me with pokes at my ribs and whispering in my ear, and I can't bear to look them in the eye after I did what I did, and that's why I wear this blindfold.
Oh, yeah, I suppose that makes sense.
And
Well, I
for,
also
for
want you to have
Arvid,
this.
Arvid, I mean, this sort of confirms what you had like mentioned about uh, the wanted poster and the wording of things, and that she is haunted by her own words, saying that, as long as her gains were put to good use, her bad deeds would remain behind her, and therefore the bad deeds are literally now behind her
Yeah.
as part of her lovely curse.
Well, it looks like it might be hard to get clean in here, so I also want you to have this wooden wand. It's got 7 charges of prestidigitation.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And you mentioned that you had questions.
Yes, we were wondering if you could tell us more about Thither, the easiest way to get to Loomlurch, and also about the boy on the wanted poster, Will of the Feywild.
I don't know much about Will or the children. I try to keep them away from my cave. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. As far as Loomlurch, it's to the north. I've been there a few times. I've visited the Goblin Candy Market. I've been to Granny Nightshade's parlor, and also the workshop. And speaking of children, many children toil away in Granny Nightshade's workshop, making toys. She kind of spits. Um, she delivers the creepiest toys to children in other worlds, fill their head with nightmares. She makes these deliveries on the back of her flying rocking horse, which to everybody but Arvid sounds almost comical, but to Arvid's like, yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. Sounds right.
Hmm.
I don't know Will specifically, but I have heard Granny Nightshade speak of him, and obviously, I assume if you knew his name, you probably found the posters that she puts all over the place. He apparently helped younger children escape from Loom Lurch, and he's helped people escape. I can't leave the cave, unfortunately, due to my curse, but um, there
Do
are
you get
visitors
enough
that come
food
by.
and drink in here?
And you can see that she looks, again, very skeletal almost. And says, part of my curse keeps me alive. I don't actually need food or water, at least not to live.
Well, that is not right. Okay, come on. Everyone pony up. We're making a meal right here.
William kind of has like a bit of a like look on his face. He goes, "Oh, here, this will be my trade," and he'll give her the rucksack in which one potato magically appears each day at dawn.
Nice.
Genius, Will. Ah, that's
Um,
why you're one of us.
Between that and the spice pouch, be able to have something of use.
It's really hard to keep morale up on an empty stomach.
um, as for Granny Nightshade herself, what did you? Why did you want to know about Loomlurch? You're not going there, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And she kind of glances behind her. We plan on getting rid of the three Hag sisters.
Signade's gonna march outside and start making a cook fire and using rations to make a proper meal.
Okay. Um, Nib doesn't seem to be like particularly moved one way or the other when you mention that you're going to stop them. But she says that seems very dangerous. I can tell you that in my brief interactions with Granny Nightshade, she does have a key protruding from her back that sort of indicates the mood that she's in based on how quickly it turns. When she's happy, it turns quickly. When she's upset, it turns slowly. And if she loses her temper, it stops completely. I've unfortunately seen instances where she was very unhappy and did terrible things.
Would be useful as a gauge. Do you know about her relationship with her sisters?
Well, not a lot. I heard that they drove off their mother. That can't be good.
No.
And the rumor is that Zabilna was their adopted sister, and they've done something horrible to her.
Yes, we're trying to get Sibilna back.
But yeah, I don't know exactly her relationships with her sisters. I didn't talk to her very much. I do know that they're in a coven, and whatever that means, I would assume they need each other in some way.
Seems so. Based on our interaction with one of her sisters thus far, did not seem particularly inclined to upset the balance between the three.
And I will say, if you decide not to pursue this foolish task, there are fairy rings in Thither. That's what these things are.
Oh,
All these little things. Well, when Zabilna was in charge, the Forest of Thither were home to a host of fairy rings that functioned as fey crossings to different worlds in the material plane. And Granny Nightshade has corrupted as many rings as she could find, making them somewhat dangerous, but there are a few still there that you could use to go back home.
Is that how you got here?
And she kind of looks down. I came here through other means.
So did we.
Seems an interesting story. It seems as though Signe's hunkered down enough to necessitate our continued stay on your step. Perhaps you'd like to share it with us? Can't imagine you get many visitors here.
Well, I do actually get more than you would assume, but I'm always happy to do what I'm expected to do as part of my penance.
Of course, if you do not wish to share that information, that is your choice. I simply ask out of curiosity.
But you are sharing a meal. You're just too damn thin.
I will share a meal, but I would prefer to keep the past in the past.
That's fair.
And Arvid, you would be familiar with these fairy rings and their ability to teleport people back to the prime material plane. They are, even when they were not corrupted, they are somewhat unreliable, and more than anything, they probably get you back to the prime material plane, but one, you don't exactly know where you'll end up, and you would have no way to get back. So,
They're effectively banishment spells. Got it.
yes, they are a one-way trip to back to the prime material plane in a place that you don't know, and I mean, so if you needed to escape, you could do that. You could use them potentially, but you would not really be able to return. At least you'd have to find another way to return.
All right, here's hey, what time is it? I don't know, like lunch? Yeah, dinner.
Yeah, something like that. Late afternoon.
Here's dinner.
Thanks, Signe. And Ragnar will help distribute the food for everybody.
And just for you, Neb, there's seconds.
So you guys can have a meal. Nib will partake, um, eating rather slowly. Seemingly enjoying it, but not. She is not a exuberant lady.
So I know I'm kind of pushy, but thanks for letting me feed you.
It's nice to have it. It's been a while.
All right. Yeah, just good times, great movies, lots of stories.
Yeah, I mean, and she'll
As
make.
we're all
Go ahead.
as we're all eating, I'm gonna kind of just um. I know you said you don't want to talk about the past, so perhaps a bit about the future. If we were successful in getting rid of this coven, what would happen to you with this curse?
Well, I suppose it depends. Some curses are ended when the person who makes the curse dies, but it's not always the case.
Because you said that this is keeping you alive, and he kind of just that would mean if it ended and he just like trails off.
She just nods and says, potentially.
Don't give it too much thought, Will. I mean, death eventually comes for us all, one way or another. As long
Yeah.
as you go out happy, it's really what counts, right?
And she makes mention as well. She's like, if you are sure that you want to go to Loomlurch, you take on well, take on this hag, you may stop by the pool and seek Lamora. Lamorna, sorry.
Is that another human like you? Someone that you know?
Lamorna is a unicorn.
Oh,
She may have insight on not necessarily how to defeat the hags, but potentially something that might alternately save Zabilna.
That might be good.
that does sound promising.
I do like that.
I have to warn you, it's not an easy thing to get her to appear or even get to the pool itself, but
What sort of things would it require?
well, it, again, it's been a very long time since I've left this cave, but there's a ward around the pool that if you get too close, you end up getting turned around without realizing it and walking the other direction.
Do you know of any way to bypass that ward? Surely someone must have done it.
The only thing that I've ever heard is a way to disguise yourself. The magic is somewhat strange, and if you can convince, and she kind of even looks confused as to what she's saying. If you can convince the magic that you are a unicorn, it might work.
Huh.
Like if you had a type of a glamour magic, something that you could change your appearance, or even a costume, I guess.
I've-
You know, the two people in a horse costume.
Callum looks at Arvid.
I could probably get past it then.
Yeah, if
Just
you
you,
could
though.
shapeshift into a unicorn, you could probably do it.
Yeah.
William kind of looks and, well, if you can, perhaps one or two of us can uh, hop on your back and you can bring us, but it wouldn't be us walking.
Well,
That's a solid point.
it's possible.
Although that would possibly also upset the unicorn you're going to try to ask for help. So I don't know if that would be smart either. This is more your realm.
Well, we can decide when we get closer.
Do I guess do a history check with it. Probably yeah, with advantage. Arvid. Yeah, I mean, from what you know of unicorns, the main thing is that they are skittish. So as long as you, essentially you, if you can disguise yourself as a unicorn to sort of lower the defensive magic, you could probably all get through. But the main thing is that you would probably not want to take weapons. That you just want to be as passive and unthreatening as you can possibly be.
Well, we're leaving Signe here.
Hey!
I jest, of course.
Without my good looks, how are you gonna even get near? I mean, listen, I understand you got Ragnar, and that's more than sufficient, but come on. I'm not that scary most of the time.
Here, I thought you would take that as a compliment. Apologies.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I am very pleased.
So, sorry,
Nib, do you know? Oh, God.
yeah, the Thither is not particularly a large realm here, at least the part that you're in. So the Wayward Pool from Nib's Cave is probably only about 10 or 15 miles away. So it wouldn't take you super long to get there.
Maybe a
Answer
day's
my question.
journey.
Well, we can get there and I can enter first to see what it's like, then if I can lower the defences, you can all come in.
And I suppose we would want to leave our weapons somewhere safe. I can even leave my armor somewhere safe. I don't think that flanking chainmail would be too welcome.
Well, that bag that we recently got should probably do the trick.
Oh, that's useful then.
Provided you don't put anything sharp in it.
Oh,
Hey, I could go in buck naked. I won't be at a disadvantage. I am pure muscle, baby.
To be fair, I think this unicorn is a bit more in line with the interactions I'm used to. Folks generally don't respond well when people show up in arms and armor looking for violence.
We clearly hang out with different crowds.
I am not very comfortable going anywhere completely unarmed, so I will either hide my weapons or I will be staying back.
Also,
I don't know why, but I expected you to say you just weren't comfortable in your own skin.
remind me, and actually I can look. I think Johan, did you guys bought a unicorn horn? Did you not?
yes, we did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Johan has it. He does have it. Yeah, just his character sheet. So Johan also has a.
So
unicorn.
just shapeshift into a horse and we'll stick that on your head.
I don't
I
know.
would.
I mean, are unicorns in the?
I don't think they're technically a beast, right? Aren't they
They're
a fey
considered
creature?
they're actually a celestial now, I believe.
Oh.
But in either case, not a wild shape.
I just want
That'd
to look
probably
at
be
what
like
they're
a
in.
polymorph.
So yeah, large celestial lawful good.
I think true polymorph is the only way to become a unicorn.
Yeah, so challenge level 5 is a unicorn. So yeah, you'd have to be a real powerful spellcaster to even attempt that.
Because regular polymorph also only turns you into beasts.
And
The
wild
CR
shape
is just way higher than wild shapes.
celestial. I didn't really think of them as being large creatures either.
It makes sense. Horses are large.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they are. It's just in my mind, I think of horses as being smaller for some reason. I don't know why.
A Shetland unicorn.
That would be cute. Wow, there's even a unicorn lair. Interesting.
They have layers? I mean, I guess that makes sense, but that's still really weird to think of.
They're listed as divine guardians and forest lords, all kinds of crazy stuff. I've never in my life used a unicorn in a D&D game, so I had no idea that they were even like this.
Yeah, they can even be patrons for warlocks.
Interesting. So yeah, you can get there in a day, because you can get in about 24 miles a day, and it's about 15 miles away. So it's about a day and a half at this point, because it's not a day and a half they would get there, but it's already getting towards evening at this point. And I will say that the unlike Hither, you are seeing sort of a day-night cycle here that you didn't see before because of the the fog
That
and corruption.
is reassuring.
So you get the idea that Scabatha's form of uh, ruling over things is different than Bavlorna's. She's not quite as, I don't want to say she's not like evil, because hags are considered evil, but she just goes about it in a different way. She's not trying to corrupt the land and make things terrible around her. She's not feeding off of that corruption the way that Bavlorna did.
And William, you're certain you won't forego your weapons? Those who bring violence upon themselves and all that.
I am very sure. Again, I can hide them or I can stay away depending on what the group wants, but I am not going to be going anywhere without having some way to protect myself.
Well, it is not my place to teach the universe's lessons, so I will not try to convince you otherwise.
Yes! Stoked, absolutely. She's so beautiful. I love those deep amber eyes. Ooh.
I just sent her an image of Aster from her vision, the adult wolf.
Mhm.
Hmm.
What a floof!
Well,
Assuming you don't lose her in the Feywild.
yeah. Well, we should probably leave you be. I thank you for your assistance.
Well, hopefully those items serve you well.
Do we
Before
want
we
to
go, are
rest
there
here?
any? Ooh, go ahead.
I was simply curious if we should rest here where it's growing dark.
You are more than welcome to if you'd like.
Would
Do you
appreciate the
know
hospitality.
any creatures we should be wary of on our in our travels? I don't believe any of us have ever been here.
Well, I can't confirm, but I do believe that I've heard a Jabberwock.
What's that?
Well, actually, the Zybilna used to have a Jabberwock in her palace, but I'm afraid it may have gotten free.
So it's a creature?
It is.
Callum just looks at Arvid yet again.
Is it a big scary creature?
They're sort of weird dragon insect things, I guess.
Are they really smart?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. So we have a chance. Wait, does it have a stinger?
I never fought one. I don't know.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense to me. Things here are just weird.
They definitely are.
Would Arvid know what well, first of all, a Jabberwock is?
Yeah, you probably know what a Jabberwock is.
Yeah. Then I would give a description of what a Jabberwock is.
Jabberwock is a solitary, temperamental predator that haunts pristine forests and ancient ruins. Accurate descriptions of Jabberwocks are difficult to come by because the rare survivors of an encounter with one retain only a confused impression of its parts and not a sense of the whole. Pieced together accounts describe it as a sinewy, dragon-like creature that can walk on its hind legs as easily as it travels on all four. Its eyes emit fiery beams.
Basically, beware the Jabberwock.
Indeed. And
Well, that sounds like a bad time. Let's
here we
fight
go.
it.
Oh, no, I don't think we should.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's the image he's trying to paint in your mind.
So not.
But how am I gonna get stronger? You keep telling me no.
I like that art.
Those are dinner plate eyes that you only see in the deep ocean, and that is unsettling.
Yeah, it's kind of like a deep sea fish, insect, dragon thing. I don't like it at all. I also like the weird sort of like because like you have like though it's not anatomically correct, you end up having dragons with wings on their backs because that doesn't make sense. It would be their arms, but this thing has arms on its back with the wings. Creepy. Also, a creature that I have never used in D&D before, the Jabberwock.
I would advise that if we have the choice, we don't fight it, but only do if we have none.
Of course.
Fine.
So,
Well, unless any of you have a Vorpal sword lying around.
I don't know what that is either. I
Callum
mean,
just,
I assume it's a sword, but
Callum just turns out his pockets. His empty pockets.
Nib would also make mention of the fact that, like, if in fact this is the same Jabberwock that used to be in the palace, it's probably best to try and avoid it. Not just because it's dangerous, but because you don't want to kill Zabilna's pet.
why?
Well,
Would you want Aster to be killed by someone?
I'd like to see them try.
Ragnar just gives you a look.
Ah, obviously no. What do you want from me?
Then we can't go after the Jabberwock either.
I'm going to give you a
We
little
can't go
bit
after a
of something.
monstrosity. Ah, fine.
Since you gave Nib a meal and everybody was like, offered her
every
things,
day
like
for the
pleasant.
rest of her life.
Yeah. What I'm gonna she had mentioned that she wasn't she didn't want to talk about the past, but I will say that she does mention the fact that in the prime material plane, she's seeking atonement, but she makes mention of the fact that she was one of the worst Stormhaven slumlords. None of you have, and I'll even say that she also mentions her real name, because Nib the Miser is not her real name, and I will just mark it down. She doesn't give you any more details than her true name, which is not a thing that is usually very advisable to do in the Feywild. But Meryl Caberstock is her real name, and she was a slumlord in Stormhaven. None of you recognize that name. You don't recognize the Caberstock name. Or Caberstock, however you want to pronounce it. It's probably Caberstock. But any attempts to get her to elaborate on any of that, she does not.
Well,
Hey, you said you were from Stormhaven. Were you around when Grandpappy Lubenhelm was just getting into the nobility?
She just shakes her head. Not
Fair
in
enough.
any, not negatively or affirmatively. She just kind of like, her head just kind of shakes in a weird sort of way, just as I'm not going to talk about it.
Wait. Was he a player? Was he a womanizer?
Ragnar just puts a hand on Signe's shoulder. I don't think she wants to think about it.
I thank you
So-
for revealing your true name. You didn't have to.
Well, you've shown me a kindness that I haven't had in a while.
Well, I mean, it only makes sense to treat you civil.
Well, she sort of chuckles. Sense isn't something that you, or at least as we would might, as humans might define it, sense is not something you find in Feywild. And
You've
she,
never realized that.
Well, thanks
so
for having us all the same.
yeah, we'll have you guys rest here. So if you need any long rest, short rest stuff, I don't think any of you do.
I will attune to the helmet.
Okay.
Yep, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, if
go ahead.
any of the items that you got need attunement, you can do that as well. And then we're just going to take a quick break, and then we'll have you guys head out for, I'm assuming, the Wayward Pool. So I will be back in a couple minutes. I'm going to grab a drink.
Sounds
Hey.
good.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
almost 9 o'clock. Time is flying, man. I'm having too
Mhm.
much fun.
It seems that those weird items we bought for the ability to dance and my eye colour are coming in handy.
Yeah, what did you get? You got the unicorn horn, and you got what else?
A odd wooden eye.
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh no, it was the monocle.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think the odd wooden eye was from Bavlona's hut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, it was when it was like in her sewing kit or something. No, it was in the taxidermy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Wait, did we go up to level 4?
You did.
Yes,
Mhm.
we did.
Right, I've just looked at my sheet and thinking I've just not updated certain aspects of it.
I know what that's like. I played a whole campaign with Terra as a really terrible wizard who didn't get half of the skills I was supposed to have.
No, I've added the stuff onto my sheet. I've just not like updated the class and level and my hit dice.
That's an issue.
I didn't give myself the correct amount of spell slots or cantrips or all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Pathetic.
I also got an extra spell slot, so it's good I remembered.
And this is
All
why
right.
we agreed that Matt doesn't play wizards anymore.
Yeah, that is official. I had my character throw his spellbook into a fire as a affirmation that Matt, as a player, will never play a wizard again.
Martial classes are so much better.
I tend to agree. And like I said, I barbarian is always my favorite class, but I always tell myself, well, I need to try something else. I need to try something else. But you know what? I think next time I'm a player, I think I might have to play a barbarian again.
I do the same thing with bards, and I always regret it. I just need to play more bards.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing
Paladins are
wrong with doing a
icky.
thing that you like, you know.
Paladins are icky.
Hey.
I mean, I kind of agree with that sentiment. Paladins are one of those classes that, like, on paper, I should really like them, and I just don't.
I like them on paper. And I just had a bad, like in the first game I played with Rob, I just had a bad experience with that character. I just rolled so bad with him every time that it just kind of soured me on. And it's not the palette, it's not the class's fault. It was just I rolled bad for him every time.
Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't say that Paladin has been my favorite to play, but that's okay.
well, it's not maybe like I would enjoy it since I love playing clerics with just like extra heaviness to them. You know, I like the fact that if you get close to my cleric, she can still hit you in the face and fuck you up. So everyone's like, you got to play paladin, and then I play paladin. I'm like, this is just suckier everything.
Cleric is actually probably my least favorite, followed by Druid. Actually, well, everybody knows my least favorite is a monk. Without it, it's not even a question. But my
But
two
monks
favorite
are so
classes
bad.
are why I was excited about a barbarian ranger. Oh my god, that's just like because those two classes are my favorite without question. I love them
I'll do
both, even though
wizard every day.
Ranger's not very good. I mean, it's better than it was originally, but it's still not great. But yeah, those are
Wizards
my
are
favorite
up
classes.
there for me for sure, but whenever I play something that's not charisma based, I always regret it because I so often end up being the person who talks to the NPCs.
Yeah, I'm forcing myself to not do that because I end up doing that.
Yeah, same thing. I'm like, Callum's worst stat is his charisma. He really should not be like, that should not be something he excels at.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, like I don't know. I it's not like you
That's a
have to.
lie, actually. His charisma's not as bad as I thought it was. I had to look at this sheet again.
I mean, I don't know. I also just kind of like obviously it's helpful when you have to do the rolls, but I mean, I'm not. I feel like it's kind of a little bit rough when you say, well, either I don't want to play a bard or I don't want to play a paladin because then the expectation will be that I'm the face because I have high charisma, you know, or warlocks or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
Warlock, you can get away with that though, because it's like you might be the creepy motherfucker that no
yeah,
one wants to talk to, even though you're good at it.
that's true.
We
I mean, it's
have
kind of like in the current campaign for Critical Role where Laudna is she tries to talk to everybody and she just terrifies everyone. It's pretty funny.
a friend, bless his soul. He always ends up playing something charisma-y, but he as a player just keeps getting us in situations that escalate.
Yeah.
Is
Oh,
this Spencer and the story of do you want them to stab us first?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Plays lots of charisma characters. Real life has very little charisma. And it just constantly does things that like end up completely sidetracking games because his real world charisma is so bad.
That's
I
rough.
love him dearly. He's a great friend, but it's something.
He's
All
just
right.
another.
So yeah, you guys have about a day to less than a full day to get to the Wayward Pool.
As soon as we are like out of Nib's cave and on our way,
But
Callum would just
before we sleep, can me and Arvid try that thing where he tries to get me in control of my dream?
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. You all except for Arvid and Johan wouldn't roll it were he here. Everybody can roll d20 and we'll see what happens.
Can I purposely fail? Or is this not like a pass-fail kind of thing?
It's not a pass fail thing. It's just a will you
Oh,
have a dream or will you not?
I think I failed either way.
Yeah,
Even when I didn't mean to.
Actually, none of you do. None of you have dreams at all.
Oh.
Well,
so
or
hi-
you wouldn't have any. You might have dreams, but you don't have visions.
Okay.
So yeah, in that case, once we're on our way the next day, like as soon as we are out of Nib's cave, Callum is just going over to William and handing him the amulet of proof against detection and location.
He's gonna kind of what is this?
It's what I received from Nib. I believe she preferred to go by. Seems more use for you though. So enjoy
He's
it, I
gonna
suppose.
he's gonna kind of pat the helmet on his head, the monocle on his eye, the gloves on his hands. He's gonna say, I don't want to be hoarding everything. It
According
it's
to Nib, this stops you from being detected by divination magics or perceived through
he
magical
grabs
scrying.
it out of your hand.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He is actively pushing it into your hand, trying to get you to take.
Yeah. He's
So
gonna kind of just thank you, and he just puts it on immediately, and he holds on to it. He goes, this is one of the ones I'm gonna have to wait to make it work, I think.
yes, about an hour or so. I would have given it to you sooner, but I didn't want to insult our host.
Is that
No,
going to conflict
understandable.
with your helmet?
How is it 3? Is it 3 things you can be attuned to?
3 is the limit.
3, and I'm attuned to 2 right now already.
I just love the image of a sneaky rogue just jangling everywhere.
I got a big old helmet and gloves and
Gloves, boots, a helmet, a necklace.
I'm pretty sure the last campaign I DM'd, I think Tara was the one with all the magical
Yep.
items
Yes.
at her rogue.
Yep,
Yes.
It always seems to be the rogue.
Well, there's so many good ones.
There are. The rogue, I think the rogue has the most cool items.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right.
Okay, wait. So the gloves of thievery do not require attunement.
Nope, neither does the monocle. Well, I mean,
Right.
if it's treated like the goggles of the night, it doesn't require it.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't. So then you would have the helmet and the amulet as your attunements. Okay.
Yep.
Alrighty. And also, this is a question really for Shane more than Callum. Is that would Callum be interested in trying to? I guess it's up to you. If you based on the visions that you have had, and the entities that you saw in the visions, if you think you would have an interest, if you think you would already have potential knowledge about who these people are or what might be going on, you can roll a history check, or you can make it as something that he would be interested in looking into.
Yeah, it's definitely something he would be interested in looking into. I can't imagine it's anything he has a strong vibe on yet.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify what he would know.
Based on what I, as a player, know of it, which is very little, it's nothing that I'm like, oh, he should probably know about that already. So.
All right, so onwards towards the Wayward Pool. Let's see.
Hey, Will.
Yeah.
Can you think what I'm thinking?
He kind of looks at you and he goes, I don't think it would be best to try right now with, you can only use it once a day. What if we come to a situation where we need it?
But how are you going to
How
know
about
what
this?
works if you don't?
If we don't use it by the time we go to sleep tonight, I will try to read your thoughts.
Okay. Sounds like a deal. I just want to make sure it actually works and just doesn't look funky.
It's a good point, but I'd rather save it for the worst case scenario.
Well,
So as you
won't
guys
let
are,
there be a worst. Sorry. Go.
yeah, as you guys are making your way, you come across basically a stand of trees that are kind of the branches are all broken, and you can see that there is a trail out in front of you with monstrous claw prints on the forest floor. Obviously, whatever left this trail was very enormous, um, and the prints in the ground span about 3 feet from heel to toe.
Oh my.
So is this the Jabberwock or the unicorn?
This would be the Jabberwock. It's not the unicorn.
Okay, so we don't go this way.
No, you don't go towards the Jabberwock.
No, that checks out.
Is it going in the way of the pool?
It's
Like if we're gonna go to our destination, are we pretty much following it anyway?
it appears to be going off towards the east, and you would be going north.
Okay. Simple enough. Just don't follow it.
Good to be mindful of, though.
That's why they say beware the Jabberwock.
You say that. I've never heard of a Jabberwock before.
Well, hope you don't
Alright.
meet it.
Agreed.
Do you really need a Vorpal blade to fight one, though?
No, but it wouldn't harm.
No? Okay, that's fair.
Do you even know what a Vorpal blade is?
A blade that appears to be Vorpal.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. It just sounds like a very shiny sword.
Not entirely sure what a Vorpal is.
It's just magic sword, very good at cutting off heads.
It's an executioner's blade.
Sounds an atrocious thing.
Oh, I think Signe would like that.
Yeah, is it heavy?
It depends on the sword.
Oh, so it comes. So it's not like one like set style or anything.
It's a sword.
I believe it comes
It's
in
a
3,
sword.
if I'm mistaken. Is it long sword, a scimitar, or a great sword? I think, or all
Yeah.
Vorpal versions.
Yeah, basically it's sword.
A light,
pick
a
flavor.
regular, and a heavy sword.
Yeah, pick your flavor of sword.
Yep.
Is it like a rapier? Is it used for dueling? Do you like fence with it? Is it more like a dirk? Is it a short sword? Does it have reach? Is it a claymore? Come on, man.
Depends.
What do you mean it depends? It does not depend. Oh my god, Arvid.
Depends on which one you find.
See,
You
the
would
more
think they'd
time I
come up with-
spoke.
Sorry,
Go ahead. God.
I was just saying, you would think it would have a better name, like the decapitator, because like that's what they do. They like Rob said, they have the ability to cut heads off. Like that's their magical ability. Besides being like, I think they're like +3s or something. It's something ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, and if you crit, you just decapitate.
Yep.
Yeah, at level 4, you're not gonna find one. Just FYI.
Oh, yeah, good no.
You mean we couldn't have had that old lady make us one?
No.
Well, trust me, if you find a Vorpal blade, you'll know it.
Okay.
If you guys find a
Seriously, you
Vorpal
could
blade,
learn
I
some
will
blade.
give it a name. It will have a sword name, because they're just, they should have a name. They shouldn't just be some generic weapon. So you guys avoid the Jabberwock's trail and continue forward to the Wayward Pool.
As
Yes.
we're all walking, William is going to kind of just. So again, I can leave my rapier behind and only carry 2 daggers with me, but I don't feel comfortable leaving everything. So, if you all would prefer, I will stay back.
I mean, I still truly believe that you should just leave your weapons. It'll be fine.
You know, do you want me to go in first just to see if it's there?
Well, I appreciate the thoughts, but no, I will not be going anywhere without weapons.
I can stay back with William, or which do you would you like us to still call you William?
It's either that you prefer. It appears that the people I was worried about already know that I am called William now, so keeping that, going back to Griswold, either is fine with me.
Well,
But
I can stay back with William or Griswold. She hasn't decided yet.
Talon will chuckle at that for sure.
Well,
I,
Griswold, just remember there's great power behind a true name.
yeah, well, there was also great danger. That's why I changed it. But point taken.
Especially here, it seems prudent that perhaps William continue to be the case.
Well, I can punch fine. I can go in too.
So while you guys are going, you find 2 more of those wanted flyers for your well, I was gonna say your young friend Will of the Feywild, but you don't know Will. But they
When you first said the name on it, I was like, "What the fuck did I do now?"
no, Will
I
the Feywild.
genuinely think it was going to be like one of us. Maybe not William,
And as
but just
soon as you
one
said
of
Will,
us.
I was like, "Oh no."
Nope, these are all similarly. You can tell that these have been up for a while. The first one that you find says this: "Bring this wisp of thief to me alive and unharmed, and I'll ensure that no sword can ever break your skin."
Of which I melt.
And the second one you find says this: "Deliver him to me unharmed, and I'll curse one creature whom you name."
Who sees that one first?
Yeah.
Do an initiative roll. Oh, you can't because your character, you have to have your tokens to do that.
Yeah,
Hold
do a
on.
dex roll.
Yeah, just do a dex roll.
Fuck.
Oh, Arvin.
Suck it.
William might have taken that one. All right, Griswold. I'll start doing Griswold just because it's his actual name, but you guys do whatever you want.
Dibs.
And you both have the so you have the exact same modifier too.
Exactly.
So
I've got better perception.
no, so we'll do what they do on Critical Role now. Do rollies. Just roll d20. Whoever rolls higher wins. You
so
for a second, I
just
thought it was
by
the same.
Harry's breath.
Yeah. So Signe, you do get that first. So you.
Ah!
I mean, I
I
don't know if
don't
you
know.
want to keep.
What do you think, Arvid? We could get her to curse herself.
Do you know the other reason why I've been destroying these?
Spy magic?
No. Have you read what they actually say?
No.
They're a curse on the person who hands them in. Like, look at Nib. Her past is quite literally behind her.
I still think the first one, even with its possible ramifications, would have been worth exploring. But these others, I agree. Risks are too high for too little reward.
Any reward she would offer, it would be twisted.
Twisted or not, may still have use.
Yeah, Arvid, why can't you think like a selfish, manipulative noble?
Well, if those who wish to take a cursed deal, then you're welcome to do so.
I'm just
Right.
giving you a heck.
And I would say, Arvid, you would be aware that it wouldn't necessarily be a curse on the person, but you would know that she would be, per the even this hag would be bound by this to do what she says, but
Not in
it's
the
kind
ways
of
that
like,
you want.
yeah, like it is you. It's a lot of these things, like a genie's wish or whatever. It's very literal. So what you get may not be what you expect, but you will get what she said, and she is bound to do exactly what she said she would do. So as the example, I would just tell you guys as players, not as characters in game, but the one that you just destroyed, um, and nothing will pierce your skin. She turned you to stone.
I was gonna say it'll slash you or bludgeon you or
Yeah, she's just going to flay all our skin off.
Yeah. So in this case, it would be she would petrify you,
The absolute worst condition in the game.
but that's just one example that I wanted to give to you because uh, that is one that would be against you, but not all of them are that way.
Yeah. Can we take a second to appreciate 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons petrification harder to fix than death?
Yeah, and it even specifically says, like in the description of that particular response, um, there is no saving throw. You were just petrified. And if you don't have a wish spell, well, good luck.
Greater restoration. That's your only choice.
Which is what, level 7 spell?
5, I think. Still, like you have to be a 9th level character to cast that.
So yeah, I Arvid's probably got the best of it, at least, understanding that, yeah, it's probably not worth it. Some things might actually work in your favor. It might be okay, but
Yeah, like roll enough times and you're bound to win something, but
yeah.
that's a lot of rolls down the line.
I mean,
All
all I
right,
can think of
Arvid.
with the last one is curse one creature whom you name is like anyone who has a kid, their kid is cursed. You named them, that's the curse.
That's funny. To me, I kind of liken these different things to almost like the deck of many things, where it's like, yeah, it could be something cool, but it could be something terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all I'm saying is bring someone back from the dead. Callum was ready to roll that dice.
First thing I thought was zombies or like some undead vampire
Yeah,
creature.
I think he might still be okay with that.
All right, so you guys have gone sort of around to avoid the
Fairy
Jabberwock.
circle.
Well, fairy circle, but also the Jabberwock, which was in that direction. For some reason, the Jabberwock, I always think of the Wabbajack. I don't know if you guys played Skyrim. That staff or whatever from
I
the.
mean, that sounds like it's explicitly based on the Jabberwock.
I mean,
Probably is.
unless Shiagorath is
Yeah.
in Hither, we should be fine.
Yes. He's the best part of that game, and also the Oblivion as well. What are they called? The Daedra. Yeah, he's a Daedra prince. All right, so per the random rolls, you do not run into anything else on your way towards the Wayward Pool. So we will have you guys get there, and it's probably late afternoon as you're getting there, because you get 24 miles in a day, and you've gone 15 miles, so it's probably actually getting pretty close to evening at this point.
Would I be able to make a roll to discern what would be the best time to seek out the unicorn?
Yep. Just do a probably just an intelligence check. I would say that for the most part, there isn't a specific time that they would appear. Um, so you wouldn't be too concerned about like having to wait or anything like that. So if you wanted to go in the evening, it wouldn't cause any problems.
Just thought it would be cool to find a unicorn at midnight under the moon.
Yeah. It's not a specific thing, but you can do that if you choose.
I mean, I'd put that forward because it just sounds cool.
It does sound cool. So yeah, you can see from the distance that there is mist that is sort of coming up from the pool itself, and there are. You can see in the behind there are these not quite mountains, but these sort of rocky crag lining the backside of the shore. A lot of them, the lower ones might be covered in moss, and then you can see in the center there is a bit of a rocky islet. And Nib would have probably told you it's roughly, if you get to within, we'll say, I don't know, 1,000 feet of the pool, that's where you start to get turned around.
Well, should we wait till night?
If I'm,
No, hold on. I think I got an idea. I'm gonna tie a rope to the end of a javelin and yeet the javelin into the area I think it probably has the thing, and then just follow my rope 50 feet up to it.
You remember the part about like they're skittish and don't bring weapons? You're gonna throw a javelin at the pool.
Yeah, I just want to see if following a rope into the ward will actually do a thing.
Maybe don't. You were
Yeah,
more
Ragnar will
specifically-
attempt to like stop.
Fine.
Maybe later? Well, no, not later. Maybe never.
Maybe just something not quite so sharp.
You can throw a rock, or a leaf, or a stick. Throw a stick. Wait, don't throw a stick. The sticks are.
I'm gonna use my axe
Monstrous?
to chop a piece of wood
No,
and then put that to the tip of my jab so it's no longer pointy, it's just blunt.
Are we abandoning the plan where Arvid goes in?
I still think that is the wisest decision.
Sisters are just like bickering behind you.
Hey, could you just pass me the unicorn horn, please?
I never had to have a backup plan.
And Johan will do that. Yeah.
William is going to find a shady-looking area, or a bush, or climb up a tree or something, and just say, "Well, I guess I will be seeing you all later."
I'll be back when either I drop the barrier or I get help from the unicorn. Just don't throw things in there, Signe.
I'll make sure she doesn't.
Rude.
Arms are crossed.
Not allowed to do anything.
When we go back, you can throw all the javelins you want.
I just want something to do. Isn't
Why
that
don't
right,
you-
Aster?
Wait, why don't you train Aster right now?
Nah, fine.
You cut down a piece of wood. You got a stick. You can play fetch with Aster.
Yeet the tree.
You're not quite that strong. I don't think you can bring it back to you, but
I've seen how dogs deal with trees bigger than them. They hang off a branch.
this is true. No. All right. So, Arvid, are you going to transform into a horse?
Sure, why not?
And then I guess somebody will need to attach with some leather or ropes or something to get the horn attached to your head?
Yes.
Why am I thinking of nothing but the Grinch cartoon right now?
What with the dog looking like a reindeer?
Yeah. You put the
Boy,
horn on his head, he just
Dick.
leans forward on his front 2 feet.
All right. So, you are now a horse with a unicorn horn attached to your head.
I'm a special unicorn boy.
What color? What color horse? What do you look like in horse form?
Uh, probably like a moonlight silver, like moonstones. So like very white and ethereal.
Very nice. So, unlike your Witcher character, right? You are a horse instead
Yes.
of not a horse.
Yes, I'm a horse, not a horse.
This is the whole reason we did this module.
So I can actually be a horse.
So you can be a
Full
horse.
circle.
All right. So you make your way, I assume, towards the pool as your horse form. And you are able to make it through. You do not get lost. You do make it to the edge of the water. And go ahead and do. I suppose you could do an investigation check if you would like to sort of investigate the water, because you're assuming you need to get to that.
Essential bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Because of incisive sense, I have advantage on investigation checks.
So it looks like it's about 250 feet out to that islet. There's an iron bowl that appears to be filled with coals. The water, you would estimate, is at least 30 feet deep. The little islet itself there is about 30 feet wide and 40 feet long. Just because I didn't realize this, and I mean, maybe it's common knowledge that I didn't know, horses can swim.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So you can either transform back, or you can try and swim out there as a horse.
Oh no, I'm going to transform back.
Okay.
Still have the horn on your head?
Yes.
I imagine it would probably just like drape around your neck now. If it was on a horse's head and you turn back into a humanoid, it would probably just sort of flop down and then hang at your neck.
Yeah, I'll probably put it just out of sight, so I can pull it out and offer it to the unicorn when I see a unicorn. I don't fucking know.
So yeah, are you going to try and swim across?
I would certainly like to.
All right.
And just to be clear, none of the rest of us could get in, because Callan would probably just try at least like following towards to see if he can go in as well. But
If you were you following close behind him, or are you waiting until he went through?
I thought the original plan was that we followed close behind, right?
If you want.
This is on you guys. My plane is sitting in a tree.
Right. I thought that's
yeah.
what we decided. Is like William was going to stay behind because he refuses to go in without weapons.
And then I thought that Ragna was going to stay behind as well, and then she was fighting with Signa. So I think if Callum was choosing to follow behind,
Yeah, Callum would
doing it-
follow.
yeah, so you would be able to go through with him when you did that. And we'll say that Johan also stayed behind, just because obviously that's the easiest thing to do.
Yep.
So yeah, you would also be able to get in with him.
So now what?
Well, I'm gonna swim over to a central bit and have a look around.
Sounds fair. Should I be coming with you?
I have no idea.
Well, let's then. Better to stick together.
Well, here we go.
Callum will hop right in and start swimming over.
It'll take you a few minutes to get over there. And though it's not specifically applicable to any status effects that any of you currently have, you would feel very rejuvenated by this water that you're in.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've done a swim like this. It's quite pleasant.
Well, probably explains why the unicorn stays in the area.
Very true.
I would say, Arvid, go ahead and just do another history check, probably with advantage. So, understanding these types of things and your previous knowledge about unicorns, just for future reference, if it ever applies, though I can't imagine it would, any creature who would choose to bathe in the water of this lake for at least 1 minute can choose to end one level of exhaustion or remove one curse that is affecting it. Alternatively, you can remove the attunement to a cursed item. Well,
I will explain that to Callum.
again, not that it's applicable to any of you at the moment, but those are things that
Hmm.
unicorn pools are known to do.
Perhaps something useful for the future if we have to deal with the hags further. Although I am hopeful that this unicorn, as we were told, might find us an alternative way to complete our task here.
Well, one could hope.
Certainly, Nib seemed to think so.
So no resistance, obviously, to anything. Nothing's happening in the water. It's a nice swim. Not the, even though you're not getting any of the benefits, it still rejuvenates you. You feel stronger, more awake, more alert, better, stronger, faster. And you get up to the pool or to the little islet there, and you can see, as I mentioned, there is a large basin that is filled with coal.
Cool. Do you think we're supposed to light it?
Do I?
With a 19 on your previous roll, yeah, it's probably what you would want to do. But you would also know that it's difficult to keep non-magical flames alight.
Huh.
Hmm.
Then I would like to reach out my hand and a ethereal white flame will shoot out as I cast.
Fairy fire. Hmm.
Nice.
Real quick, Matt, how long have they been going?
15 minutes, 20 minutes.
As the sisters were arguing, you guys will just hear Griswold from the tree. They left you behind, by the way.
Yeah. I figured. Ah, all right.
Ragnar will just kind of look over at the like lake area surprise and then look back and be like, "Oh, since when?
Since a few minutes ago.
Oh, well, I guess we're staying here then."
Yep, guess so.
Yeah, I know that's not how fairy fire works, but it sounds fun that way.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Let's say that the coals ignite when you do that.
I was gonna say, if not, mundane fire may not be easy, but Callum does have flint and has a tinderbox
Oh no,
somewhere.
I have like higher level fire spells like what's it? Flaming
Yeah,
sphere
it's
and
just
shit.
in this region, all non-magical flames are extinguished, which is why a regular flame would be difficult. It's not impossible, but regardless, it's fun just to do fairy fire, so it's fine. So yeah, it does light up, and after you kind of look at each other, like, okay, now what? And after about a minute, the lakeshore mists sort of part to reveal a white horse with a single gleaming horn on her brow. She stands perfectly still and just silently observing you.
Callum bows.
So does Arvin and Sylvan. Um, Greetings, we mean no harm.
All right. So, telepathically, you hear again Lamorna. You know her name. Um, I'm curious to know why you've come to Thither.
We've come to get rid of the hags and Nib Sidju. Sorry. Sidju may have a way to do that.
And after a moment, she says, "Well, I do have certain sympathies towards anyone who would have a grievance against the Hourglass Coven."
That said, I believe our primary objective is actually less with the hags and more with the previous ruler of this realm, uh, liberating them from the sounds of it.
And as you mentioned that, you can see that as she starts to speak, the waters of the lake start to animate and form liquid sculptures of the things that she's describing. And she says that the domain of Prismere once belonged to the Archfey Zybilna, but was usurped by her cruel hag stepsisters, Scabatha, Bavlorna, and Endolin, which information you already knew. She makes mention, because you were talking about Zybilna, that Zybilna was, and I like this word, vainglorious, meaning just very vain and full of herself. Um, very vainglorious and deceitful at times, but her magic kept Prismere safe and isolated. That situation ended when the Hags of the Hourglass Coven captured Lamorna's mate, Eladon, stole his horn, and use it as a magic to imprison Zybilna in her stronghold, the Palace of Heart's Desire. Um, and she goes on to explain that Eladon's horn might be needed to free Zybilna, but she doesn't know where it is, and she doesn't know where Eladon is either. She believes that the Hags are holding Eladon prisoner.
While we don't know where Eladon is, we did happen to come across this, and he'll pull out the horn.
And you see she looks both surprised and kind of hurt a little bit. And she says, "Where did you get that?"
We traded it in Heather from some Shadakai.
She pauses for a moment and says, "Well, I think it'd be best if you use that to free Zybilna and save Prismere from these hags."
You believe it will work to that end?
Well, I believe that that horn was used to imprison her, and it in turn could be the key to freeing her. Of course, you'll need to get to the palace, and to get to the palace, you'll need to go to Yon first.
Do you know how we could get to Yon?
Well, there are a few ways that you could potentially get there. One, of course, being tricking the hags into sending you there. And she kind of looks at you. I don't know if that would be something you'd be amenable to.
It's an option, but it doesn't sound particularly certain. Is there any other way?
There is an ent by the name of Little Oak that might be able to guide you there. And once in Yon, you would need to search out Amador, who will take you to the palace. I'll just put in here Little Oak.
Who
And
would
she,
this Amador fellow be?
he is a friend. And you will know him when you see him.
Very well.
Is there anything you would require for the assistance you've given us?
If you were able to defeat the Hags, I would simply ask that you search for Eladon, find out his fate, and if possible, return his horn to me.
That's fair. I'd be happy to do that.
Agreed. It seems as though there's a chance returning here may be needed for us to return home anyway, so certainly very little inconvenience.
Um, and you are free to stay here at the Wayward Pool, and she also um, motions with her head to everybody else, your companions as well. Should you need a place to rest, it is free for you to do so. I would also mention that if you do make it to the Palace of Heart's Desire, when Zabilna was the ruler, no one could enter the palace without an invitation. Now, it's unlikely that the Hourglass Coven is capable of enforcing such restrictions, but something to keep in mind. Additionally, there is a library on the second floor that contains Zabilna's most treasured tome. And on your way here, I also assume that you probably heard or saw something related to the Jabberwock.
Ah, yes, we
Mm.
know he's currently roaming around.
Well, he can't break through the lake's protective magic, but I would certainly suggest avoiding him at all costs.
I've advised them to do that.
Perhaps yet another warning may be helpful for keeping Signe from chasing off after it.
But we would take you up on your gracious offer to at least stay the night.
Yes. Tell me, this Little Oak, do you know whereabouts he might be? Oh, wait, no, we know that. Never mind.
Yeah, Little Oak is actually like the ent that the getaway gang hangs out. They hang out basically on him.
Interesting.
So their hideout is on an ent, essentially.
Dig it.
Well, we shall leave you in peace and tell our friends we can rest here.
And she says, just bring your friends over, and I will bring the barrier back up so that the Jabberwock doesn't.
I'll go get them.
Please.
And Callum will just take right off to go get them.
And she will fade back into the mist.
Yeah, and I'll stop the concentration on the fairy fire just to extinguish it.
And you would probably, I mean, you could if you wanted to, but you probably would want to make camp on the shore rather than on that little islet, so you could both swim back.
Yes, that's what bad now.
Yeah. Callum's not slowing down this time for Arvid, though. He's just going full tilt so he can go to Ragnar and Signe and William and get them to pass on the message and get them to come in.
Hop on down and go with him.
Yep.
Yep, okay.
I still advise leaving your weapons, at least
No.
not out
Right
here,
up in the
but
tree.
We can put them in that bag.
something to that extent might be polite at least.
Okay. And Ragnar will ask for the bag from Johan and stick her sword in there.
Yeah, I mean, like at this point, you would be you wouldn't be like required to. It was just a matter of don't make the unicorn think you're gonna attack her, sort of thing. But you've been invited here, so you would be okay to. You obviously like, you don't want to.
Callum is still going to suggest that people put away their weapons.
Yeah, you can do that, but you know,
Yeah.
it wouldn't
We'll
be like
start climbing back up the tree.
Yeah,
She did
and
warn
he
that
gets
the
murdered by the Jabberwock.
yeah, the Jabberwock may be a particular problem out here.
You don't have to relinquish your weapons now. Just don't draw them.
Kind of looks back down from halfway up the tree. Just, you're sure?
I'm sure, yes.
All right.
I'm a little sad there's not a handout for the unicorn.
Yeah, because it's a cool encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I take it back. There is one, but not. It's just the. There's this, right? So like, it's not.
It's the
It's
normal
just-
picture for a
It's just a
unicorn.
normal
Correct.
picture. Yeah, like it's not for the actual character, which is a little unfortunate.
Still
There we
majestic.
go.
Nice.
I've
Looks
just
like
been imagining her like the last unicorn. I think that's
Last
what it is.
unicorn. Yep.
Yes.
I loved that when I was a kid. That
Yeah.
and
This is-
the Flight of Dragons. Did you guys ever see Flight of Dragons? It's from like the 70s, but
No, my old school movie like that is never ending story.
you should look it up. It's hard. I think it's hard to find. I don't think it streams anywhere. But Flight of Dragons, it even has James Earl Jones as one of the bad guys. It's like Darth Vader, man.
Characters look familiar, but I can't remember it at all.
The voice acting, watching it as an adult, is atrocious. But I really, really loved it when I was a kid.
Oh my God! Wait, yeah, I remember the
Good
old
Lord.
looking dude with the elfish looking dude with the pointy ears and beard.
Yeah. I can't say it holds up very well because again the voice acting is rough. It's real rough, as is the writing. But as a kid, man, I absolutely adored that, and I think that's from like the early '80s or something, maybe the late '70s. I can't.
It looks like 70s
82.
animation.
'82.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely looks familiar. Probably was like on TV or something and I watched it.
I'm sure it was because like and like even for me, I mean, obviously it was years old before I ever saw it the first time because I wasn't old, and if it came out in '82, I don't have memories of that year.
So there used to be this series of commercials for I Can't Believe It's Not Better, and they had this actor. His name was Fabio, and
Not really
he
an actor,
always
he's a
had
model, but yeah.
model, yeah, whatever, all the same to me. But yeah, he always had like this crazy hair in the commercials because they fluffed him up real good, and the unicorn hair kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, I remember specifically. So like, see if I can find it. Oh, this is small. This is a picture, but Yeah, Fabio was like on all of those trashy like romance novels. Like he was
Mhm.
the guy standing there
Mhm.
like with the, you know, big rippling muscles. Like I'm a pirate, you know, like on those little. He was all. It was. This is the thing. The first thing that I remembered from him as a kid. This was an NES game that he was on. Wizards and Warriors 2.
Oh my, I haven't thought of the name of Claim in a long time. Holy shit.
That was 1989.
God damn, yeah.
The true barbarian there, right? With like that's totally what barbarians would look like. Completely clean shaven, no body hair, you know.
Oh yeah, he's polishing his armor.
Right. All right. So
Excellent point.
you have another evening to rest very safely at the Wayward Pool.
I will attune to the necklace now.
And you're relatively sure that that will work. At least the scrying part.
Mhm.
So everybody roll a d20. We'll see what happens. Everybody but Arvid.
She just saying, not me.
The pros and cons of being Fae.
Ooh, well. Just I'll say, after the dreams, do we want to call it so we have Ryan next week?
Yeah, it's a pretty good place to stop since we're at a point where you can decide if you want to go to Loomlurch or go to Little Oak or whatever you want to do from there. Um,
It looks like, I mean, if it's 10 or under, it looks like only one of us is having a dream.
yeah, let me pull up my notes. Yeah, so Ragnar would be the only one that would have anything on this. Um, find all of my notes here. So, date calendar. Because again, even though I'm not talking about it because it's hard to talk about in the Feywild, I am still keeping track of time in this game.
What month would it be?
I can't tell you that.
Yes, because we've not discerned whether time is flowing faster or slower.
I can tell you the day that you left, which was the 21st of Horisol, which is essentially the 21st of January. That's when you left the prime material plane. But it would ruin this surprise if I told you where you were now, because it could be the 28th of January. You know, it could be the 22nd. Could be the very next day by the time you get back. But we'll have to see.
With Griswold's luck, he missed his birthday blessing.
Um,
Hey, can't blame me for trying to ask questions.
I will definitely tell you when you get back.